You think your logic is going to be the same as the developer's logic? This is wrong, like blandly wrong for 100% of the developers. They just think differently. They're usually very analytic about things, logical people.
But mockups are basically images of what your screen is going to look like. So you can describe in as many words as you want. The button is going to be in the left corner and the scroll bar is going to be here, and it's not going to show your developers what it actually needs to look like. You have to create mockups.
Do that. It's just gonna make it easier. Anything you can do.
What we need to do.
Progress bars.
Yesterday we got our first paying customer.
But I was thinking maybe we could do like.
How do you know what's a big story?
We get access to their analytics. Is there a way to? We're playing the game, so if there's ads, we're gonna run ads.
Yes, we need to learn how to do kind of customizer related work.
And it can help us grow.
Hey guys, what is going on? This is Eric and Ruth from Online Biz TV, where we teach you everything you need to know about online business. In today's video, we're going to have a short conversation about how to write product specification documents. If you haven't already, check out this awesome video Ruth made for you talking just about that. If you haven't watched it, please do. So let's just jump into it. Ruth, do you want to just tell us, generally speaking, what is product specifications document?
Yeah, sure. So a product specification document is basically a way for you to let your developers know exactly what it is they're going to develop. It's your way to specify the product. So you need to really detail exactly what are the features, how it's going to look. It's your description of what they need to do, and they will take it and turn it into code and into an actual product. I think that's the best way to
that's the best way to, it's basically write down your thoughts and be as specific as you can, and this is how you learn that what developers have to think about when they do something. Like, there are so many things, every button and their hover state and click state and links and whatever. This happened, what happened then?
It's taking your app out of the abstract. So you could say, let's reconvert our app as an example. We could say we want a page builder for the thank you page that also does a post-purchase upsell. And then this is very general and very abstract. And then you take it and you actually show, you have a picture of in your head usually, but it's not good enough. You need to translate it into words and images so your developers who are not in your head can tell what to do.
I think it's even more than that. The thing about product document is once you start writing it, you understand yourself how many things you didn't thought about. Mm-hmm. So let's say that you have a upsell product you have in mind. You have an image of someone clicking the upsell and then something happens. And then when you start writing it out, you start seeing all these little details that you didn't thought about before, like how the pricing should look like, and then if you have a discount, what's going to be the discount and taxes, and how exactly it's going to be affected if the product is out of stock. And then you start like thinking about all these little things that you didn't thought about before, and you start like, okay, but if this happened, this should happen, and if this happened, this should happen. And then you slowly but steady you get this huge 80 pages long document that looks like something really, really you don't want to read. So yeah,
so it's a good point. It helps you really narrow down exactly what needs to happen. It makes you think about the little details that you didn't think about when you came up with the idea, but it can get very overwhelming. So what would you say, in your opinion, would be the best way to get started when you write a product specification document?
Yeah, I think this is something I learned from you, and I think you also mentioned that in your video. With product specifications, you better just outline the main parts of like any general app, and then dive down from there, and try to have it by categories. So if it's like an intro, generally telling the developers what it's about, then I don't know, pricing, user types, main pages, onboarding, and settings. I think this is exactly what you mentioned in the video. Again, watch this video, it's awesome. So yeah, I think this is how you go about it, and then you just get more specific and hyper specific about everything. Yeah, do you have any other tips for that?
No, I generally agree, but I'm like a structure freak. Like when we usually review each other's product specification documents to give
You
any.
always fix everything I'm doing?
Yeah, but I don't necessarily fix the things that are, like, I don't fix things about the product, I fix the formatting because.
Structure.
Yeah, I love it. I love it when everything is like indented like it should be. I think it's so clear for the eye. It helps it more readable for me, and I don't know if it makes it more readable for our developers.
I learned this shit from you. Like every time, the fact that I learned that if you click tab, you just take it one step further, and then you can mark everything and get it back or forward. Just everything becomes organized in your mind. Everything have to come below something or above something. Nothing is just out there, and if that's what's happening, and it's not connected to anything else, it's probably not written right. So you just need to think where it should fit.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It takes me to what I was going to add to what you said, which is to maybe focus on processes in your app. So for example, you said you would create an intro, explain to the developers what it is. And then the next thing you need to do is start actually specifying the app itself. And you can get a little bit lost with like, what pages do I talk about? What is the order? So I always start with onboarding. So you do onboarding, and onboarding leads you directly to the next step, which is the home page or dashboard or whatever you call it, the main page that the customer gets to after onboarding. And then you start working on the pages there. And then maybe you work on login and sign up. Sign up is part of onboarding, but login is kind of like somewhere out there. And then it's really easy when you think about it like that to think about how the process is going to look. And then once you've listed all of that as like headers, you need to start creating subheaders. So for example, onboarding, we have three steps. So each step is going to be a subheader. And you just take that farther and farther away until you have like a structure, and then all you have to do is fill in the words, the little things.
Yeah. I'm actually, I don't think this is something you mentioned in the in your video. There is like usually when you start actually writing the document, a lot of new ideas will pop up as you write the document. So once you have the structure, I always have like a dumpster below at the bottom of the document. Every time I have like, as I'm writing, I need to do this as well. I'm just gonna type it down like in one or two keywords, and then just get back to it. And then at the end, I'm always gonna go to the dumpster and make sure that everything is written. Whatever is not written, I'm like, oh, that's good, I need to add that. Let's specify this part until everything is cleared from both the dumpster and the actual specification document. So I think this is also a good thing to add. Yeah. Also, if there are anytime, like if you're just starting to write it down, usually every time there is needs to be a mockup, which we're going to talk about soon, or how to create the mockups and what to do with it. I just usually write like add mockup and mark it in red, so I'll know that something is missing, or missing an image, or missing something else. Like every time there is something that I need to get back to, I'm just going to mark it down, so I'll know to get back to it later. I think this is also something that really helps.
If you just like take your time to figure out every little detail, then you're going to end up wasting a lot of time. And I think it's something that I personally learned from creative writing. I used to like write a lot when I was a kid, and one of the principles is just dump everything you have in your head. Don't try to make it good. Just dump it into the paper, and then you can review it. Yeah, I mean, you can dump it in an organized way where it's like under the proper section, and then you go back to it and you say, oh wait, this doesn't make sense, or I need to move things here. And as you write things, you're going to find out a lot of the times that what I said in the onboarding doesn't make sense anymore because I've changed some things.
I hate it when it happens.
That's terrible.
Then everything changes.
Yeah, especially after you did the mockup and you need to go back and change the mockup. I hate when that happens. I need to take a break. I like leave the computer for a second, take a break, and get back to it.
You know, one of the things that I'm truly kind of disappointed with myself, or just not disappointed. I wish that when I started getting into business, I took a Figma course instead of a Photoshop course. Yeah. So yeah, be good at Figma. I'm going to take a new Figma course, because the thing is, as you mentioned, once you change stuff, in the specification document, the mockups needs to change. This is super hard to change if you just have an image. So we're gonna speak soon about a few tools that gonna let you control that in a more in an easier way. So I think it's time. Let's talk about some of the principles of when you write these documents. So how would you go about it? Like, what are principles that someone writing it for the first time should think about?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing, it relates to things that we've already kind of touched on, but the most important thing is that you need to be very, very detail oriented. You need to really think about the details and not just, you can't afford to be abstract. And I think people don't understand that. I've seen people who...
I think they also don't understand the definition of abstract. They think, no, that's super specific.
Yeah.
No, that's not specific.
Yeah.
Specific is specific.
That's true. And we've seen examples of that. We've had people who wanted to get into SaaS and develop their first app and talk to us and ask us for opinion on their product specifications. And usually the main thing about the product specification is that it's not clear enough. Me as a person who doesn't know what your app is supposed to do, I can guess a lot of things, but I don't understand where should the buttons be, what happens when he clicks, what happens when he clicks and there is an error, it needs to be super clear exactly what the processes are, and you need to really, really focus on, just don't assume anything.
By the way, we're still like getting it wrong all the time. Like even after working with the same developers for almost 3 years now, all the time we're missing stuff, but we are getting better at it over time. But you just need to assume that whenever you specify something for your developer, you need to assume that he knows nothing about, like you're writing for a little kid who knows nothing about the app and the area of
your niche.
Of the niche. So let's say we're developing for e-commerce mostly. So let's say you assume that your developer have no idea what's e-commerce, what's online stores. If we're developing mostly for Shopify, you have no idea what's Shopify, you have no idea what's product, you have no idea what's anything. So you need to write everything so he can understand everything. If there are any APIs, or just send an examples. Also, we didn't talk about it yet, but whenever you can show examples of similar things, links to places doing something similar, that's gonna help the developer have a better grasp of the product, do that. It's just gonna make it easier. Anything you can do, videos, tutorials, everything you can do to help them understand, or whoever reads the document, it's not only developers, other people might gonna need to read the document. Make sure that you make it as clear as possible and there are no ways to
that's I think and kind of another point, which is to make it as simple and clear as possible. I mean, you need to make it very detailed, but you also need to make it very simple. And I think for me, when I used to work in other high-tech companies, we needed to write not specification documents, but like how do you call it? Like, if there's an error in the app, these are the steps you need to do. Kind of guides for other people to operate our app. And yeah, kind of like a playbook. And we were always told, think about a 5-year-old reading this or a grandma reading this. They need to be able to follow it. This is how, don't assume that they even know how to turn on the computer, assume that they are stupid. Now I know it sounds disrespectful, but that's not the point here. We're not trying to say anyone is stupid. I wish I knew how to write code. I don't. But assume that your developers are a blank slate who doesn't know anything about, like you said, the niche or anything like that, and you need to explain everything from scratch. And not just that, you need to simplify it, especially as the more complicated your app is, the more you need to simplify things.
It actually brought me like 2 other points we didn't discuss. I think, first of all, if you, whatever you're not going to be specific enough about, there are 2 options. Either the developers are going to ask you what did you mean by that, or they're going to tell you something is missing, or they're just going to develop it however they understand and think it. Okay, so it's super important to communicate with them and let them know that if they have any questions, if they have anything they're not sure about what it should be done, if they're not 100% sure how it should look like, they should message you so you can solve them. You have, like, you think your logic is going to be the same as the developer's logic. This is wrong, like bluntly wrong for 100% of the developers. They just think differently. They're usually very analytic about things. They're very logical people. So there's a good chance you, as the visionary, as the product manager, you're gonna think differently about things, and they're gonna just analyze and kind of digest things differently. So it's super important to let them know if they not sure about it, just communicate and you can explain.
Yeah, and it's also, you brought another point up that I didn't think to mention, but basically it's not just the developers. You as the product owner, a lot of the times it's very clear to you exactly the processes and everything that is going to happen, and you just think, oh yeah, this is super clear, this is intuitive. But then if someone who is not from your app, who doesn't know it as well as you, will read it or see the screens and say, I don't understand, why did you do it like this, why not this is not comfortable. So I think it's a really good idea, once you finish writing the specification document, to always look at it in a critical eye. And if you have either a partner that is unfamiliar with the document, or I don't know, a client, a potential client, someone in the niche, a friend, anyone that is kind of in the niche that can review your specification, or at least the screenshots with you explaining to them, something like that, and tell you what they think, this is going to be very helpful. And this is kind of like putting aside the communication with the developers for a second. It's just to make sure that your specification is spot on, clear, that you're not doing something that other people are going to say later, oh, how do I use this? And we all have example of that in our lives, of like different websites and services that we think like, why is that? Why? Like, why did they do it like this?
Yeah.
So you always need to think about the customer, the end customer.
Yeah. I mean, we can't. I don't think we can emphasize enough how specific you need to be. I can give you examples of developers that, in the specification document, I just wrote, add a delete button, and when you click the delete button, instead of deleting one line, they just deleted the entire page. I can give you an examples of when they removed analytics from places they should have been, when we made changes that broke entire other pages because they didn't think about it, and they assumed that, let's say, if something is missing, we should put in another thing that just they decide should be the secondary default. So all of these things, it's better to try and think about beforehand. Otherwise, it's just going to cause some anger later on, maybe. So try to avoid that. Again, it's going to happen. It's okay. Don't worry about it too much, but do try to think about everything in advance, and you will get better over time. Now, I think another important thing that we didn't mention, and it's super important with every SaaS, is to define the user types. You want to expand a little more about that?
Sure. So I think for us, usually in the first apps that we've created, it was very easy because there's just one user. I mean, you don't have different permission structures, which makes it so much easier. I don't think people understand the how more complex it is to specify an app and think about an app where you have different types of users. So, for example, if you have an admin and an agent, I think that's the simplest example. You need to specify what can an admin do, what can an admin see, how does an admin log in, how is an admin user created, how can an admin add agents, and then on the agent side, what can an agent do, what can he see, and then maybe you have permission scopes, so different agents see different things according to what they have permissions for. Can an agent edit his own personal details? How can an agent account be created? There's so many little things that people sometimes don't think about. You just specify an app and you're like, yeah, there's the admins that can do everything and the agents can do 1, 2, 3. But that's not enough. You really need to basically create 2 different user journeys, and you don't necessarily need to create full mockups for everything, because if you create the full mockup and you just tell the developers, hide these elements from the agent, that's fine. But it has to be like a full user story for each type of user.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention the super admin. like you, basically,
Yeah.
as the app owner. So you want to specify, let's say that we have, again, getting back to e-commerce, because it's easy for us. So you have the store admin, all right? You got customers, maybe you got agents from the merchant, like employees of the merchant. Then you got yourself, you got the developers, and you got, I don't know, Shopify, the platform, if it's necessary. So each type of user is a little bit different, and with the admin dashboard, it's also super important. Like, we had in our 5 apps running, almost all of them were launched without an admin dashboard, which is a big pain, because then every time a customer basically, first I'll talk about the admin dashboard. This is where you can log in as the app owner, see some stats about each user you have, and if you need to, I don't know, provide refunds, delete stuff, change stuff, and basically control everything from above, it's going to be easier for you. Now, if you don't have that, every time a customer asks for something specific, you're going to need to ask your developers to do that instead of creating an automated way for you. Let's say a refund, if you don't have a way to automatically do that, it's going to be super complex. So make sure you do have some type of an admin dashboard. It's better to add that to the specification documents as well, even if you decide not to build it right away.
Yeah, and I think our point of view was always that we were like, we're going to develop stuff for the customers, not for ourselves. We recognized from the beginning that we needed it, but we were like, no, let's focus. We have limited budget, limited hours. We want to go to market as fast as possible. Let's focus on user
priorities,
features.
Guys, priorities.
Yeah, but I can't say, I think in the beginning, before we first launched, it was good. It was a good decision.
Yeah.
But as we went along, we kept putting it off because we were like, no, first the user-facing features are first. But it was a mistake because it took us like, I think almost 2 years to actually get an admin dashboard for Reconvert, and it just makes your life so much easier with support. And
by the way, when we talk about admin dashboard, here you got roles too. So you got yourself, and let's say that you start getting many customers, so you bring in people for customer support. So you got yourself, and then you got customer support, and you got developers, and you want to know exactly what each one of them have done. But guys, this is like super advanced. Start with something simple, and you can take it from there.
I do want to like try to give an example of why it's important to give forget about seeing statistics and getting growth, insights from your admin dashboard. I'm just talking about an admin dashboard where you can help support your customers. This is so important. So for example, Shopify makes it kind of easy because you can ask for permission to the stores that are your customers, and then you can log into the app from their account and give them any support that you need. But let's say your app is not on Shopify and your service is an independent service. You need a tool to allow you to log into your customer account without getting you need to ask for their permission, but without getting their user and password. So you have to create at least an admin dashboard that lets you see, okay, this is the customer I'm talking to, this is his information. I can log in and see his issue so I can help him solve it, which is something we never did. So, that's a really good point about the admin dashboard.
And then, regarding the point I said before, once you actually you grow and you have a bigger team taking care of the customers, the reason you want to have accounts for them as well, just so you can track whatever they're doing. If someone, for example, giving someone 100% discount, you want to know who was the agent who did it and why, and you want to make sure you can track these things. So you just want to have a log of all the action they took, and then if something looks suspicious, you can dive deep into that and make some decisions. Now, next step, we promised we're going to talk about it. Let's talk a little bit about mockups, wireframes, how you should do that, what tools should you use. You have a lot of experience with that, so I think you should go ahead first.
So just a little bit about the evaluation of how we did it in our company. We started off creating our mockups on Photoshop we're using some screenshots because we use Polaris, which is the Shopify design framework. We had it kind of easy, so we didn't have to create an entire design. We just needed to take some elements and Photoshop them into a screen. And then we progressed to Figma, which is what we use now. And Figma it's just another world when it comes to designing a prototype or a mockup. Now, what are mockups? I kind of skipped ahead of myself, but mockups are basically images of what your screen is going to look like. That's basically it. So you can describe in as many words as you want. The button is going to be in the left corner and the scroll bar is going to be here, but it's not going to show your developers what it actually needs to look like. You have to create mockups. Now, there are two routes to go in here. The traditional one would be you as the product manager would create a wireframe, which means you kind of like draw in very simplified lines what the page is going to look like. You draw where the elements are, how it's going to work, but you don't put any design here. You don't put colors or any kind of other design element. No. And then you give it to a designer, and a designer kind of dresses it up with a design, and then the developers take it and actually implement it.
A good tool for that would be Balsamiq, which is great for just wireframes because you have a lot of pre-built components like drop downs, buttons, tables, all of that, and then you can just place it, like dump it on the paper. You can also connect, like when you click here, have another frame, and then it's very easy to show processes to the developers. Figma is better than if you want to just do the entire design.
Yeah, so Figma is a designer's tool, really. We use it even though we're not designers because, like I said, we have, and this is like the other way you could do it, which is if you don't have a designer or you already have a design framework. So again, Shopify Polaris is a very good example of that because they encourage app developers to actually use this framework, and we decided to do that with our apps. So we didn't need a designer. We really didn't. Shopify did a design. All we needed to do was take the elements, dress them up on the page. So it's more of like a UX, user experience designer rather than an actual designer.
Yeah, and you can get another like frameworks. We got for EasyCall, what was the name of it? Aragon?
Yeah.
I don't know, but you can find a lot of pre-made sets. You don't have to really
get a designer.
It's even better like not to try and invent new stuff. There are a lot of things proven to work online, and just in computers there's a way people are used to communicate with the software. So it's better to take something that is already proven to work instead of trying to make it up on yourself. Chances are it's not going to work. People spend until today billions, I don't know if billions, but millions of dollars on improving design, user experience, conversion rate, etc. Don't think that you know better before you have the data to prove it.
That's an amazing point in general, not just for the design. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just don't. It's not going to work. You have huge companies spending so much resources. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, learn from them. And everyone copies a little bit from everyone because it's not like you are copying anything that is trademarked or that you can't. You can look at, we always say that also in e-commerce, look at a big store that is succeeding and see what they're doing and try to implement the same principles in your store. So it's the same thing with SaaS. Look at a SaaS company that you like the process of, how they're doing things, and try to implement similar processes in your own company, in your own product.
This is, I think, it's a good thing to do in the how to get started stage, where we talked at the beginning. It's better to look at some other companies that you like, and try to take some of the processes whenever you build it. If you see that the company have a page that is relevant for you and you didn't thought about, obviously add this to your specifications and add that. So I think about mockups, we kind of discussed about it. Again, whenever you can add mockups, do that. It's a lot of work. It's not easy, but no one said it's going to be easy.
We also had in the product specification document, I did show a little bit about Figma, so you can check it out and see. It's not a full Figma guide. We're not
You don't have
good
a
enough.
video about Figma?
We should create one. Yeah. we
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we're definitely not good enough, but we can do like an intro.
Figma for dummies. That's what we can do because we're dummies,
dummies.
and we use Figma.
Yeah, so I think, okay, let's move on to the next step. I think once you're done writing down everything, assuming that you have a developer, if you don't already, check out, we have other videos about how to hire employees, how to
Find developers.
I think we have specific, I don't know if we have one. Never mind, we'll find the right one, we'll place it somewhere over here, assuming you're watching on YouTube. So yeah, once everything is written down and you have a developer, we're moving forward. So it's time to go over the document with your developer, either actually together with him on a call or just let him read it and add some notes in a Google Doc or whatever document sharing system you're working with. Go with him. You need to ask him, I think, for two things. First of all the questions and all the notes he thinks he should add, and then time estimations per widget, per feature, in any points written down. You want an hourly breakdown, and the reason for that is, assuming that you're starting out, you still don't have much budget. The way for you to prioritize what's going to go on the first version or not is probably going to be dependent on how many hours it's going to take to develop. So you need to be very strategic about it, and you need to know exactly how long everything is going to take.
Yeah, and it's I personally would always recommend doing a video call with your developers to go over everything together, because you don't know what they might assume if they just give you notes. They might think they understand something, but they don't. So it's really a good idea to even just go over it with them and then ask them what they understand. Like, okay, so can you explain to me in this section what is going to happen? And then you can see from their explanation if they fully understand that. And I really think we can't stress enough how important this stage is, and it's not going to happen once. It's going to happen
Every
few
time.
times.
Every time.
Yeah, and then once, like you said, once you get the time estimation for each feature, now is the time to decide, and this is again a very important stage.
Now it's the time to lose weight.
To lose weight, exactly. Just get rid of the excess. So let's say you have 3 features that are like the core features of your app. They are a must. Doesn't matter how long they're gonna take, you have to do them. Yeah. But then you've got like 5 other features in the specification that are not a must, that you wanna add, but they're not a must. You need to define what your MVP is, and your MVP is your minimum viable product. This is the minimum product that customers are going to be able to use, that is going to have some sort of a market fit that you can release. So at this point, after you get the time estimation, I mean, you should probably define the MVP a little bit before that, but it's a good idea to write a specification document that is a little more robust than your MVP. And then after you get the time estimation from your developers, you can decide what is going to be included in the MVP and what not.
Yeah, and the reason for that, like, you may think it's stupid, like, wait, why should I write everything and then just go with like 2 features? It's super important, because once the developer is reading everything, he can understand the ideal structure, formation of code, or
the data structure,
everything he can plan ahead for the future and for scaling. So it's important to write everything down, get the time estimation, and then squeeze it down to the MVP. And the last thing that you need to do, if you ask me, before you start, is once you said, okay, these are the things that I must launch with, cut 2 or 3 more things, and then launch. Like, be as lean as you can, because the only real feedback you're gonna get about your product is from users using the app. If you think something is necessary, you might work super hard, and we've done it multiple times. You work super hard on a feature just to find out nobody cares about it. So the only teacher we have is data, not our intuition. Our intuition is crap. Not always, but most of the times. So you need to trust your intuition with the general product. I think this product can work, but feature-wise or widget-wise or design-wise, don't do that. Let the customers guide you through that. Let the data guide you, and you can take it from there.
And also, just to continue what Arya is saying, your goal is always to go to market as fast as possible. Because once you go to market, you can start getting this data that Arya is talking about, that, sorry, Eric, you can start getting user feedback, but you can't do that if it's just an idea. So the leaner you make your MVP, the faster you will go to market to get this data. And it's important to know, people get like very attached to the features that they specified and don't want to get rid of anything. It's really important to know that you will do that.
Yeah, the time will come.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example for our best-selling product. It's a post-purchase upsell, and we launched it without the upsell, just so you understand how lean you should go.
Yeah.
Because again, we were very detailed on the specification document, and then once we talked to the developer, we understood that the upsell itself is going to take forever to build. So we just said, okay, let's launch without it, see if there's value there, and then we're going to expand the rest of it, because it's going to be like 3 extra months of development or something like that, where during this time we could start getting customers. So it's better to launch as lean as possible, start getting customers, and just expand the product as you go.
But then on the other hand, some things that we did on this product was, we have a widget for HTML, we have a widget for social follow buttons, things that no one uses. I've yet to see a store use any of these widgets. We also have okay, there are other widgets that people use, but are secondary to way better stuff that we only develop later. So that just proves how wrong some of our intuition was in the beginning, because we were like, people are gonna love it, people are gonna want it, and they don't, they want other stuff. So it just proves the point that you need to go to market as fast as possible.
Yeah, so guys, I think you have everything you need to know about how to write a product specifications or product requirement document. If you watched all until now, first of all, wow, congratulations, it's been a long conversation. Thank you so much for watching or hearing, I don't know, depends on where you're consuming this content. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, I don't know, Spotify, LinkedIn, wherever you are, just follow us to get more content. We're trying to release as much content as we can regarding online business. If you have any comments, any questions, make sure to comment them in the comment section below. Depends on the platform, we'll make sure to answer everything.
Yeah, we read every comment and we answer all of them. So just any question you have, any request for a new video, let us know. And
if we forgot anything also about product specifications, you got any tips, please share them so that other people can also read them and learn from you guys. Yeah, I think we're done.
Yeah, thank you for
watching. Bye.